急に刻みし記憶の傷跡は待つ忘れる希望抱き合おうに落ちてゆく
What is up, guys? What is up? So today we are here with a quite the special video. In fact, it's gonna be the longest video I've probably made on Yu-Gi-Oh, which is an in-depth analysis of Sky Striker, my favorite deck. And as you may have seen by my recent edits, pretty funny ones, you should check them out. I've been playing this deck for a long time and I know a lot of it. I know a lot about it, how to play it perfectly, basically. And I know the ins and the outs of the deck. So today, we're here with this analysis. We're gonna go over the most relevant cards right now. Then after that, I'm gonna show you a bunch of techs. I'm gonna show you ways to play the deck. I'm gonna show you some moves that you can make that are not so intuitive. And also an OTK, which is very special just for this deck, because it's probably the most convoluted OTK an archetype has, because it's a lot of effects. So I've cut the irrelevant cards because there is a lot of them in this archetype. So the ones that you see here are the most relevant ones. Okay, so let's go. We have Cyanos here. You can discard one spell, special summon this card from your hand. Already a pretty decent effect. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can special summon one Sky Striker Ace Rose from your deck or graveyard. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn except machine monsters. It's not really a big deal because a lot of the Sky Striker extra deck monsters are in fact machines. So it's not a big deal. You can banish this card from your graveyard, take one of your Sky Striker Ace Rose that is banished or in your graveyard, and either add it to your hand or special summon it. Now, this is recursion. You see, like Popular? You should know Popular by now, the stupid ass Snake Eyes card, right? Yeah, this is basically kind of a Popular for us, in that it gives us a way to recur a card, which is really important in this case. It's good for follow-up, it's good for pretty much anything. So, usually we run this card at 1, but for the deck list, I'm gonna tell you the ratio and everything after I'm done explaining to you what the archetype does. So then we have Ray, this is your main monster. So, quick effect. You can tribute this card, special summon one Sky Striker Ace monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. Now, all Sky Striker monsters that, you know, can be summoned from this effect are the link ones. You know, we have a lot of link ones in this deck. While this card is in your graveyard, if a face-up Sky Striker Ace link monster you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon this card. Okay? This is insanely good and it comes up so much. So much. This is an insane effect. Both of these effects in this deck are perfect. Okay, so of course 3 copies of this. Then we have Rose. The effects on Rose are not as relevant. What you need to know is if a Sky Striker Ace monster is normal special summoned, except Sky Striker Ace Rose, you can special summon this card from your hand. Okay, so for example, if you normal summon Ray, you can special Rose, or if you special Kagari, you can special Rose from your hand. Alright, kind of an extender, but we only play one of these, and I'm gonna talk about it later. Then we have Amp. So this card is not as played anymore. It has seen a lot of play during the purely format, where towers were running rampant everywhere and unaffected monsters were basically in every single match. Now it's not that good anymore, because this is a kaiju basically. It's an in-archetype kaiju. Yes, we also have that. If you control a Sky Striker Ace monster, you can special summon this card from your hand to either field by tributing one monster on that field. Okay, now this card requires you to control a Sky Striker Ace monster. It's not, it's not hard to achieve. Usually that's what you do. You control Sky Striker Ace monsters. The thing is, kaijus are not that great when your opponent knows about them. So, they can play around it. Of course, they can adjust their board once they see you're adding amp, and they can just go, okay, yeah, now he has a kaiju in the hand, basically. So when they summon Ray, I can try to just disrupt that or something like that. So this card is not as good anymore. So you might as well just play normal kaijus, you know what I'm saying? But in formats like the purely formats we had a while ago, this card was actually pretty good and I was playing it. Now, the sauce, the real fucking card, Engage. So if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, by the way, this is a recurring theme for most of the Sky Striker spells. So if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, add one Sky Striker card from your deck to your hand, except Sky Striker is mobile as Engage, of course. Then, if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you can draw one card. Having 3 spells or more in your graveyard with Sky Striker is super easy. You're basically always gonna have 3 or more spells in graveyard. So you can almost guarantee that this card is gonna draw you an extra card, on top of you searching a Sky Striker card. By the way, there is no once per turn on this card. So yeah, if you draw into another Engage, you can actually activate the other Engage and keep going, alright? So this is a very insane card. This is the best searcher in Archetype searchers, basically, of all time. Then we have Afterburners. So, look, if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, again, the recurring theme, target one face-up monster on the field, destroy it. Then, if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you can destroy one spell or trap on the field. This is gonna be important later. That you can also target your own spells and traps. But, this bonus effect is basically like a pop 2. You can pop a monster, face a monster you control, and then if you destroy it, you just get to pop another spell and trap on the field, which is good. It's so good. It's a 1 for 2, basically. Again, 3 or more spells, you're always gonna have them. Then we have Jamming Waves. So Jamming Waves, see it like this. It's basically an Afterburner, but reversed. Target one set spell or trap on the field, destroy it. Then, if you have 3 or more spells and traps in your graveyard, you can destroy one monster on the field. Now, this card says target one set spell or trap. I'm going to explain to you why it's not that good. Because if your opponent has continuous trap cards like Floodgates and stuff like that, they can just chain link 2. And then what happens is, since the card says target one set spell or trap, what happens is chain link 2, it resolves. Now it's face up on the field, and Jamming Waves lost its target because it was targeting a set spell or trap. So that's why we don't play it. It's not that good, basically. Even in a trap heavy format, not that good. But it's an option. If the format gets super heavy on traps, this is an option. Then we have Airspace Area 0. Now, this card, pretty decent, but it's not a must play, okay? You can target one other card you control, excavate the top cards of your deck, and if you do, you can add one excavated Sky Striker card from your hand. Also shuffle the rest into the deck, then if you excavated a Sky Striker card, send the targeted card to the graveyard, okay? So this is gonna be important to get rid of monsters from your main monster zone, because as you have already seen, if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, this is a recurring theme for all your spells. What happens is, if you then control a monster in your main monster zone, you're kinda screwed. So this card was made to actually fix this problem, okay? To actually send cards that you don't want to be on your field to the graveyard, so you can actually activate your other spells. Then, if this card in the field zone is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon one Sky Striker Ace monster from your deck. This can be also Ray, which is basically your starter, and stuff like that. This second effect, though, is going to be important for later. Then we have multi-roll. Now, this card is a little complicated, so I'm going to go over it a little bit slowly. So once per turn, you can target one other card you control, send a card to the graveyard. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to your spell and trap activations. This is very crucial. basically it makes your opponent unable to do basically anything to your spells and traps. So you can just resolve them. Like for example, Ash Blossom, right? Ash Blossom usually wants to negate the engage. Well, if you activated the first effect of modules, it can't do that. Ash Blossom cannot respond to engage, alright? And same goes for all the other cards. Once per turn, during the end phase, you can set Sky Striker spells with different names from your graveyard up to the number of Sky Striker spells you activated this turn, while this card was face up on your field, but banish them when they leave the field. Now this means is, since all of the important Sky Striker spells are basically like a toolbox of different effects that interact in a different way with your opponent, what it means is you're gonna be using them a lot, okay? So what happens is modules just, you know, picks them back up from the graveyard, sets them face down, and they're ready to be used again because most of them are quick plays, as you can see. Very important for grind games. Imperative for grind games. Then we have Sky Striker Mecha Ornidrons. This is just a starter. It basically just summons a token, a Sky Striker token, that then you can use as material for, you know, your extra deck monsters. Then we have Widow Anchor. This is the big playmaker of the deck. If you control all monsters in your main monster zone, you can target one face-up effect monster on the field. Negate that face-up monster's effect until the end of this turn. Keep in mind this is a quick play. Then, if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you can take control of that monster until the end phase. You see, you can actually do a lot when you take control of them, and they are not getting their monster back. They are not, because you're gonna be using it for material for your other cards, for your links. Okay, so this is insanely good. This is an incredible card. Okay, then we have Sky Striker Mecha Evil Booster. It's not used as much anymore. It's rarely used, but basically what this card does is it targets a face-up monster on the field, and that target is unaffected by card effects. Now, it's niche, you know, you can play it, you cannot play it. It's probably best if you don't play it though. Then we have Shark Cannon. Now Shark Cannon, you know, you play this card at 1, it's a pretty good card. If you control no monsters in your main monster zone, target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish that monster. Or if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you can special summon that monster to your field instead, but it cannot attack. Now this is good for if you want to link climb. You can actually just get one of their monsters from the graveyard, you just take it, and then you just link climb with it, and then you get to access code and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Or you can just banish one of their key cards in the graveyard. You know, a lot of graveyard focused decks are dominating the meta now, so Shark Cannon is actually very good at jamming their wheels, you know? So this is a pretty good card. Then we have another amazing card recently added too. It's Linkage. So if you control all monsters in your main monster zone, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn after this card resolves, except Sky Striker Ace monsters. So keep that in mind. Also send one other card you control to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon one Sky Striker monster or Sky Striker Ace monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. And if you have at least 1 light and 1 dark Sky Striker Ace monsters on the field or in your graveyard, the summoned monster gains 1000 attack. Now, the second effect is gonna be important for an OTK I'm gonna be showing later. There is no we, bro. What the fuck? Why am I talking in plural, bro? Whatever. I'm just going crazy right now. So we can just OTK with this. I'm gonna explain later. And this is just also a starter because you can send any card. You can even chain this to a card you already activated, and there's basically no cost to it. So yeah, it's a very good card. Then let's go to the extra deck, the very spicy stuff here. Kagari, the best monster in this archetype. If this card is special summoned, you can target one Sky Striker spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Now, as I said, engage is not once per turn. You can use this card multiple times. So what this means is you usually use engage, then you summon Kagari and get the engage back, and you use it again. You know what I'm saying? Very simple. We have Shizuko. Monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack and defense for each spell in your graveyard. You know, not that big of an effect. but in the grind game, it's actually pretty good. Then, once per turn, during the end phase, if this card was special summoned this turn, you can add one Sky Striker spell from your deck to your hand, with a name different from the cards in your graveyard. Also very good, because, you know, if your opponent stops you from getting to engage, and you don't have the engage in the graveyard, you can actually get it in the end phase with Shizuku. Then, we have Ayate. You can only special summon Sky Striker Ayate once per turn. This applies to pretty much almost everyone. Almost. This card can attack directly. After damage calculation, if this card battled, you can send one Sky Striker card from your deck to the graveyard. This usually is a way to send Engage to the graveyard, to then recycle it with Kagari. Then we have Kaina. If this card is special summoned, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. It cannot attack until the end of your opponent's turn. Each time you activate a Sky Striker spell or its effects, you gain 100 LP, but this, you know, this doesn't matter. But basically, what this card does is, let's say your monster gets destroyed, your Sky Striker monster gets destroyed, and you have a Ray in graveyard. What happens is the Ray is gonna summon itself, and then it has a quick effect to special summon into Kaina, and then Kaina can stop an attack. Now this can actually save you games, so always have one copy of this in your deck. So Sky Striker Ace Zeke must be link summoned. You can only special summon Sky Striker Ace Zeke once per turn. If this card is link summoned, you can target one face-up monster on the field, banish it, until the end of your opponent's turn. Now, I do like the card, and the card is very good, but the thing is, you really want to use this card when you can actually OTK, because otherwise this doesn't really deal with the problem. You know, they're gonna get their monster back, and then you're gonna have to deal with it a second time, basically. So do keep that in mind, but it's also really good in general, you know, just banishing, and for a certain period of time it's also good. And then the other effect is pretty much irrelevant. You can target one of the card you control. This card gains 1000 attack and then send the target's card to the graveyard. This is good for unclogging your main monster zone, and also OTKing because it gains 1000 attack. Pretty decent card. Then we have Azalea, recently added. You do need 2 light or dark monsters to summon this card. Must be link summoned. And then, if this card is special summoned, you can target one card on the field and destroy it. So this is removal. Then, if you have 3 or less spells in graveyard, send this card to the graveyard. Now, a common mistake I see a lot of people doing is they see they have 3 spells in graveyard and they go for Azalea. Then they activate Azalea, it resolves, and then Azalea just fucking dies because you don't have 4 spells in the graveyard. Okay? You need to have 4 spells in graveyard to keep the Azalea after you activate her effect, because otherwise it's gonna send itself to the graveyard. Here, if you have 3 or less, so even if you have 3, it's gonna send itself to the graveyard. Do keep that in mind. Then, once per turn at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can banish one spell from your graveyard, destroy that opponent's monster. Now, if you're low on resources and you need a way to remove a card, a problematic card on the field, you can do that by using this other effect, if you can actually attack, that is. So this at best is 2 pops, which is amazing, just an amazing card, an amazing piece of support, and goes to 1 in the extra deck. Then we have Sky Striker is Camellia. Now this card is insane. This is an amazing support card. So, once per turn, if you have 3 or less spells in your graveyard, you can send one Sky Striker card from your deck to the graveyard. Insane effect, because this allows you to send Engage when maybe it's turn 1 and you can't attack with Ayate, to send the Engage to then grab it back with Kagari, right? So this card allows you to turn 1 send Engage to the graveyard, if in case you're going first for some odd reason. And then you can just use there as material for Kagari, and then you can Kagari, grab Engage. And second effect doesn't really come up as much, so I'm not gonna talk about it. Then we have Engage 0. This card is not that good. It is a target for linkage, but it's not great, really. If it's a card special summon, you can target one monster on the field with 2500 or more attack, negate its effects until the end of this turn. it's a decent effect. And the other effect is when if this card attacks while you have Sky Striker Ace Ray and Sky Striker Ace Rose in your graveyard, you can destroy all monsters your opponent controls. It's way too many clauses, it's way too many things that you need to achieve to actually pull off this effect. It's very specific, so it's not played as much. Like, you rarely see this card in Sky Striker decks. Same goes for Spectra. Now, Spectra is supposed to be the boss monster of Sky Striker, but it's actually ass. Now, it loses 3000 attack while you have no spells in your graveyard, already a downside. Then, when your opponent activates a card or effect as Chain Link 2 or higher, I don't know why this restriction is here, but okay. You can banish 2 spells from your hand and or graveyard, negate that effect. Then, you can destroy 1 card your opponent controls. Well, the effect is pretty good. How come this card is not played then? Well, you are banishing 2 spells from your graveyard, from your hand or graveyard, which is not good. You actually want to keep your Sky Striker spells in graveyard. And it's a Link 4, so it's already kind of hard to special summon for Sky Striker. And then it's just not really that good, because when your opponent activates a card or effect as Chain Link 2 or higher, you know, you can just negate stuff. It's not an Appaloosa, it's just kinda bad, right? So it's not played as much, but if you find this card cool and stuff, you can totally play it. It's not bad, you know, but it's not that good. Now, we're done with the analysis of the main and extra deck monsters of the archetype, the ones that you're gonna see most of the times, pretty much. And now, let's go over the deck list. And here we are. Now, in front of you is a pretty standard Sky Striker list from 2024, which is today's year. So, this is kind of just how you play the deck in this modern era. Look, I'm gonna just do a card by card. I'm not gonna explain, of course, the cards that I have already explained, but you already see new cards in here, so I'm gonna go over them real quick too. So we have 3 effect Veilers. You should know this card already. Just quick effect, it sends itself to target and negate a monster, an effect monster on the field during your opponent's turn. This is a spellcaster, and it's gonna be useful for this card right here, which I'm gonna get to in a bit. Cyanos we already seen. Maxi, you should already know this fucking card, I hate it. Then we have 3 Rays, 1 Rose. Then we have Nibiru, the Private Being, 1 copy. You should also know this card. Basically, this card, it's a board wipe if people are overcommitting. Then we have our Preferred Duster, you know, no introduction. Then we have 1 Reinforcement of the Army. This searches Ray, because she's a warrior. Then we have 3 Engage, we have 1 Afterburner, 3 Lightning Storm, because yes, this is a going second list. And, you know, if you're not running 3 Lightning Storms, why are you even running it? You want to see this card in your opening end. Then we have Triple Tactics Talents. Now, if your opponent has activated a monster effect during your main phase this turn, you can activate one of these effects, draw 2 cards, take control of a monster your opponent controls in the end phase, or look at your opponent's hand and choose 1 card from it to shuffle into the deck. All 3 of these effects are ban-worthy, right? And Sky Striker is really good at triggering your opponent, at forcing your opponent to do something, to activate their effects. So this actually works super well in Sky Striker, just for this reason. And also it's a very, very strong card in general. We're running 1 of it. Then, 2 Triple Tactics Trust. Now, you could also put this card to 3, because funnily enough, this card can search you Engage. Insane. Then, if your opponent has activated a monster effect this turn, set 1 normal spell or trap directly from your deck, except Triple Tactics Trust, or if your opponent controls a monster, you can add it to your hand instead. Okay? It's crazy, because most of the times they are gonna control a monster, you know, they just activated a monster effect. And of course, you're gonna be able to search Engage, which is super powerful. Then we have Area 0, we already gone over this, 1 copy, we have 1 multi-roll, 1 Ornate Drones, then we have 3 Widow Anchor, 1 Shark Cannon, 3 Linkage, and 3 Evenly Matched. This is the best board wipe you can run in this format. Now, at the end of the battle phase, if your opponent controls more cards than you do, which most of the time they're gonna do, but you want to be using this card basically during your turn. It's like turn 2, you just skip to battle phase, you can use this card from your hand if you control no other cards, and then they are just gonna be forced to banish until they control one card. Insane card. You should totally be running this. It gets rid of so many problematic cards in this format, and you wanna run this at 3. You absolutely do, because you want to see this card in your hand at the beginning. Otherwise it does nothing, okay? Don't listen to people that say, oh yeah, just run 1, just run... No, run it at 3. Then we have 3 Infinity Permanents. You should know this card by now. It's basically Effect Veiler, I don't need to explain it. Then we have 3 Kagari, we have 3 Shizuku in the extra deck, we have 2 Ayate, 1 Kaina, 1 Zeke, 1 Azalea, 1 Camellia, 1 SP Little Knight. You should also know this card already. If this card is link summoned using a fusion, synchro, exceeds, or link as material, you can target 1 card on the field or in the graveyard, banish it. Also, your monsters cannot attack directly this turn, not a big deal. Then, when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can target 2 face-up monsters on the field, including a monster you control, banish both until the end phase. Now, this is good for protecting your monsters, but, you know, she's gonna be alone in the extra monster zone in this deck. But it's, you know, decent removal. If you're getting desperate and you absolutely need to remove something, you can easily trigger the first effect because these are all link ones, alright? It's super easy to trigger the first effect of this card. Then we have 1 Celine, Queen of the Master Magicians. Now, that's why I was talking about Effect Veiler before. This card can be made with Effect Veiler, so if you have like a Link 2, then you have an Effect Veiler, and you can, you know, normal summon the Effect Veiler and go into Celine, then you can remove 3 spell counters from Celine and revive back the Effect Veiler to then make access code. You know, very standard thing. A lot of decks also do that. It's not only Sky Striker that does this. And that is pretty much it. I'm not gonna go over Access Code Talker because you should already know this card. Okay? Now, let's move on. And after that, we are back in here with my main deck list. I actually got to master once with this list. It's super good. It is incredibly good. And I don't know why some people, you know, you can already see some cards in here that are new, you know. To you probably have never even seen this card, you know. So I'm gonna quickly go over the cards that we have in here. We have 3 Maxi, we have 3 Rays, we have 1 Rose, 1 Nibiru, 1 Regeki, 1 Arpis Feather Duster, 1 Rhoda, 3 Engage, we have 1 Afterburner, 3 Lightning Storms, 2 Triple Tactics Talents this time. Then we have this card. Now, this is a tech card. I'm pretty much... I've never really seen that many people use this card to actual effect, especially in Sky Striker. Now, I'm gonna explain to you why this card is super good, especially in this format, and for what it does. So, your opponent cannot activate monster effects in response to this card's activation. This means, if they control a bear on the floor, they can basically not respond with it. They cannot negate this. So monster effects off limits. They cannot respond, which is already amazing. Send 1 monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, then target 1 monster your opponent controls with the same card type: Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, Pendulum even, and Link. Shuffle it into the deck. Now, you can do a lot of crazy shit with this card. So it's a piece of removal that cannot be responded to by monster effects, which is already amazing. It circumvents destroying the monster, you know, so it circumvents that kind of protection by shuffling the monster into the extra deck. Then, what makes this card so strong is the fact that if you target, for example, a fusion monster with this card, you get to shuffle it back, but also to send 1 fusion monster from your extra deck. In this case, it can be Antis or Garura. It's usually Antis if you're targeting a fusion monster, because then when this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. This is a 2-for-1. This turns this card into a 2-for-1 that cannot be responded to by monster effects. It's already crazy. Then, if you're targeting a synchro monster, you can send Malong. And this card, when it's sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 face-up card your opponent controls and return it to the end. Again, same thing, it's a 2-for-1 trade. You are winning in this trade, okay? Then, if you're targeting an Xyz monster, you can send this card, Meteorological Aggregator, right? This card, when it's sent to the graveyard, it basically targets a face-up card on the field and it negates its effects until the end of this turn. Again, 1 face-up card. It can be a monster, it can be a continuous spell or trap card, it can be a field spell, whatever. This gives so much flexibility to this card too. It's not, you know, it's not a 2-for-1, but you are negating a card, which can be problematic. Then, if you're targeting a Link monster, you can send Bucephalus here, and when Bucephalus is sent to the graveyard, it triggers to send Garura from the extra deck to the graveyard. Then Garura triggers to draw you a card. You are actually plussing off of this interaction. And that's what you want to do with Sky Striker. You want to drown your opponent in card advantage. So this is actually very good. This is an all-in-one, jack of all trades kind of card. It's removal, it cannot be responded to, it makes you go plus. It's one card that is multiple interruptions. That's what is so amazing about this card. And it's a spell, so you know, it goes in grave, and it's fodder for your other Sky Striker cards. So, amazing card. It's a UR, sadly, but you know, you can choose to craft it or not. It's up to you, really. If you want to play the standard list, that's completely fine. That's also a very, very strong list. This is not mandatory, but it sure is good, man. Then we have 2 Trust, 1 Multi-Roll, 1 Honor Drones, 3 Widow Anchors, Shark Cannon, Linkage, 3 copies. Then we have Evenly Matched at 3, and then 3 Infinity Permanents. And for the extra deck, Adler Entity Antis, Garura, Malong, and Aggregator for your Ultimate Slayer targets. Then we have 3 Kagari, 2 Shizuku, 1 Ayate, 1 Kaina, 1 Zeke, 1 Azalea, 1 Camellia, and Bucephalus. Now, you may notice that the Exotic is typed. We do not have much space. This is kind of the small downside of running Ultimate Slayer and Sky Striker is the targets do take up 5 slots of your extra deck. But the thing is, these copies of, you know, these Sky Striker cards are enough to win you games, right? Alongside Ultimate Slayer and the value that it provides, it's far more important than maybe an access code that you're gonna summon once in a blue moon, right? And that is pretty much it for my main Go Second Sky Striker list. It's up to you whether you want to use Ultimate Slayer, but I find it super cool. It's such a cool card, and it's also cool because you don't, you know, you get to run a card that nobody really ever uses. But, you know, it feels cool, man. You should really try it. But anyways, that was pretty much it.